I do want to make sure I'm giving you guys the real from my experience and letting you guys know the negative stuff too, because that's really what you need to know before you live somewhere. Hey you guys, it's your girl Funmi-Layo. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like this video because it helps other people to see the video, and make sure to subscribe because we have awesome content on this channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about some pros and cons of living in Miami. So you guys know that I've had like a couple of videos on my channel about living in Miami, actually several. Definitely go check those out. And most recently I've had the video of me living 3 months update in Miami, then also me living 12 months, like a year update in Miami, and then also my video comparing living in Miami to living in DC, because if you don't already know, I used to live in DC. So this video here is just to give you guys some details about some cons, because just like I just noticed in my video, because I do like living in Miami, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying is positive about it, but I do want to make sure I'm giving you guys the real from my experience and letting you guys know the negative stuff too, because that's really what you need to know before you live somewhere. But I will say this, no matter where you go, you take you with you. So if you're not good within yourself, no matter where you go, you're going to think it's negative. But that being said, there are some places that genuinely just will not agree with your spirit and genuinely are just not what you're on or what you're about, and it's just not the best place for you to live. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm going to start off with the pros, because in case you haven't seen my other videos, and just to be more specific. So the first pro that I will say about living in Miami is the weather. I do like that it's majority of the time it's super sunny and the weather's just nice. It's always warm, that whole tropical vibe. And with that comes the the encouragement to stay fit and everything like that, which is tough. It's so tough because there's so much great food out here, which is another pro about living in Miami. There are so many great food selections in terms of like these very super nice restaurants to like some chill hole in the wall restaurants. Food is great, especially if you like Hispanic food, but even if you don't, there are just in general a lot of great options for, you know, foods to eat in Miami. And with the weather being great, also it attributes to the environment, which is like, you know, you have your beaches, so you can do a whole bunch of like water sports if you're into that, or just go on the beach and chill, which I do occasionally, but I'll be honest, it's not that often like you would think with how the proximity that I am to the beach. I don't go that often, but it's nice to know that you can go, and occasionally I might pop out there. So there's that. Another great thing about living in Miami is like you're around a whole lot of ambitious people. In my experience, again, all of this is my opinion, so other people might say something different, but this is my experience. So it's a lot of people that just want to make it to the next level. They want to be rich. They want to just like start their own business. They want to like make their business grow. They're in like different things, you know, or it just being in an environment where people want to do more inspires you to also want to do more and to also want to stay on your stuff. So there's that. Another great thing about living in Miami, and this is just Florida in general, I think it's the whole of Florida, no state income tax, and that is super helpful when it comes down to, you know, when you get your paycheck, or if you have your own business. I'm not sure how that works, but like not having to pay state income tax at the end of the year is just like, thank God, you know, it's just an extra amount of money in your pocket. So I think that is pretty great. Another thing is that in Miami, I haven't experienced this in any other city, but in Miami, it's like a culture of like having fun. Everybody just wants to like, not everybody, but a lot of the times you see people just want to have fun, live life, enjoyment. And I think that was also part of the reason that I moved here, because that's just, especially last year, that was really just the season of my life I was in. I just really wanted to enjoy myself, you know? So being around people that remind you that life is short, you know, you only live once, and that you should enjoy your time, and it shouldn't all just be work, but you should also get that play time. You should also have that time to really have a ball. You know, you can definitely have that here, and the whole environment and the culture being like that inspires you and reminds you that, you know, life is for the living, you know? So that that atmosphere is nice, I think. So that's a pro for me. And again, with that, there's always something to do because this is a very touristy city. So people are constantly coming in and out. So with that, like, there's something on a Monday, there's something on a Tuesday, there's something on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I'll tell you, some of the latest nights will be during the week, honestly. Forget the weekend. It'll really be during the week. So there's definitely that here. There's always something to do. And not just with nightlife, just things in general. Like, there are museums out here, there's different type of activities that you can do. Again, I mentioned the water sports. Again, even just going out to eat, like the restaurants here, they'll have nights where they'll have like certain themes, certain restaurants that is, but certain nights they'll have a theme and they'll have like dinner party vibes, and it's just, the energy is incredible. Honestly, you come to Miami, I feel like you gotta go to a dinner party. It's just like the dinner party, and I'm not talking about one of the group dinner parties with the promoters. I'm talking about just in general, go to a restaurant that they have that dinner party vibe. And I'm gonna make a video about different restaurants and everything like that, and you should follow me on TikTok at funla.ib, and also on Instagram, again, that's at funla.ib, because I do reviews when I go to the restaurants, and I have a whole bunch of reviews that are coming from a whole bunch of restaurants that I went last year that I still haven't uploaded. And it's just, the energy is just incredible. The entertainment, the performances, it's so much fun, and it's just entertaining. Yeah, it's really great. And when my family came to visit me, I took them to one because I just like the energy, and you guys, I feel like, will enjoy it too, depending on who you are. So I definitely wanted to speak on that. But again, like I said, there's always something to do, and different nights, there are different things, or even during the day, there are different things that you can do. And with that, I will also say that I believe this is the only city that I know of, that I've been to at least, that they do, like, for girls, women, they'll do like free dinners, or there's like dinner parties, and it's just like, it's for free, and again, I don't know, man. I found out about this recently through promoter. Not recently, but when I moved here, that's when I found out about it. And like, promoters, they'll invite you like, oh, you can go to this dinner, you can go to that dinner, at these different restaurants that, say it's a restaurant you want to try, and you're not too picky about what you want to eat on the menu or whatever, but they just have these group dinners where they'll invite like a bunch of girls, and you come out and you can eat, but they'll choose the food or whatever, or it depends on the situation or whatever, but they're free group dinners that you can go on. The ones that you'll see on my Instagram and on my TikTok are ones that I paid for, because I really like to eat the foods that I want to eat. I'm one of those people that I'm not that adventurous with foods. I just started being more adventurous last year, but I like what I like, but I like to eat it at different places. So I like to order my own food, and I want to have like my portions and everything like that. So they're free group dinners, and then there's also like free nightlife opportunities, and like with the promoters or something. So like, in other cities, it's like, somebody, or it's like a dude will invite you, this, that, and the third. This one is like, you can for sure have an in with a promoter. If you don't know anybody with a section at that time, and then you'll be able to enter the club for free, and then also be in the VIP section and getting free drinks throughout the night. So there's that, so that I definitely thought was interesting about Miami. I was like, wow, so free food, and then the free nightlife or whatever. So I was trying to figure out, like, what do they get out of that? I just couldn't understand it. I was in shock. I'm like, what? They're just gonna give us free food, and then we're gonna get free nightlife, like free entry to the club, and then free drinks, and it's just, like that. But what I learned is it's the aesthetic of it. So when you see a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of women, at a certain restaurant or at a certain club, it attracts more people there. So that's what I learned, because I was so confused. I'm like, so they just giving away money in the city? Like, what's happening? But that's what I was told. With it being like this, a whole bunch of people coming in to visit the city, and it being very touristy, I will say that there are a lot of people that come in and out, which means it's such a transient city. in the sense that you could see somebody today, you know, really hit it off with them, like you have a great connection and everything, but they got to leave on Monday, you know? And it's just, you're constantly meeting people who are not going to be here for a long time. Or let's say you make a friend and it's just like, oh my gosh, you're super dope. But, you know, they might only be here for like a month or 2 months. It's like everybody, a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people that I've met, they're not really here for a long time. So that is, that's a good and a bad thing, you know? So it's like, it's great because it's great networking, you know, it's great opportunity to, oh no, I'm getting into the cons a little bit, but this will be the only one I get into the cons on, but until I get into the cons in the next section. But the whole point of it being transient and everything is, it makes the positive about that is it's great networking, a great opportunity to meet people that might, you know, be a great business partner, might be a, you know, a great friend, or like just somebody that you can like, you know, learn from. It's just great networking. You never know, you don't know who's who, you don't know who you can learn from. And a lot of people are coming here from all around the world. So you're likely to meet people that come from all over here. So that's a positive about that. And another thing that's a positive about living in Miami is that it's a great place to travel out from, in my opinion, just because the tropical areas, they're close here. So if you want to take a trip, like watch on my channel, my solo trip to El Salvador, you know, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't that expensive. I also have a video talking about my costs, about my solo trip to my costs from my solo trip to El Salvador. And you can see it wasn't too bad. The round trip flight was not too bad at all. And I feel like also my location factors into that because I do live in Miami and it's closer to all those tropical places and everything like that. As well as there are cruise lines here. A whole bunch of the cruise lines, they're just right there. You know, it's just a drive away. So you can take a cruise somewhere. You can also take a ferry ride to like the Bahamas. You know, it's so much that you can do out here in terms of venturing out of the USA and traveling. It's a great place to do it from. So Miami is a great location for that. So now let's move into the cons. So I kind of touched a little bit on this con beforehand in the pros, but I'll touch a little bit more on it now, talking about like, you know, people coming in and out. It can be harder to build solid connections with people that you might be very interested in, like, you know, moving really like, you know, becoming close to, or like, oh, you really meet a friend and it's like, oh, you're so dope, but they might have to travel elsewhere. But what I find is like, you can always keep in contact with people, you know, over the phone and stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel like in other cities that I've lived in, it's just way easier because whenever you meet somebody, chances are high that they live here. So, you know, another con I would have to say, this was also in the pros, but it's a con too. Y'all, the weather. I've never lived in a place where there was like, I'm trying to think, I don't think I have lived in a place where there were like hurricane warnings, like, or hurricane storms. Well, maybe I have, I don't know. But the hurricanes, the whatever warnings or whatever, the tropical storms and stuff like that come out here where you're like, I don't know, I'll just be scared, like, oh my gosh, should I go home this weekend? I'll text my friend, I'll be like, girl, I remember one time last year, I texted my friend, I'm like, girl, should I go home? Are you scared? Like, are you worried? There's a hurricane that's supposed to come. I'm nervous, like, da-da-da. There's one time that happened. Another time, luckily, I was already home, so I just extended my ticket to stay longer. But that type of stuff can be scary because even though, to my knowledge, well, I lived here last year, so nothing hit Miami, well, my area, Miami, big time. But I will say, though, the rain got very, like, floody. You know, it was giving flood vibes, you know, near, you know, around my area. And that was kind of, like, wild. I remember my mom, she called me, she hit me up, and, like, somebody else that I was talking to at the time was hitting me up, like, are you good? Like, you see, like, what's going on? And I think that was one of the times where I just like in the house just chilling and just in my own vibe, whatever. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't know it was that bad. Like, I had no idea. Like, I can look out my window and I see the storms and the, you know, the thunder, and I can hear the rain and everything, but I didn't know how bad it was until I went outside. And I'll tell you, like, even in my building, the lobby had flooded a little bit. Like, the floor had flooded. it did affect, the building. I was good, where I lived up, up there, but in the actual lobby of the building, it wasn't looking too good. So there's that. So that's something that, you can face. Luckily, no hurricane has actually like really hit on that level out here since I've been here, but it's a little bit scary. But I also will say that with the rain, because it does rain a lot here, that's another thing to keep in mind. It does rain a significant amount. With the rain though, I find it calming, and especially like when I don't know, one of those, like when it's raining and stuff like that, and I can see it and I can hear it from the windows of my apartment. It's nice. It's actually a vibe. That I can have like a movie or something on. I'm snuggled underneath the covers, just having a time. I got my pint of ice cream, just vibing out. But yeah, another thing is that this place is like expensive. I think they said that the cost of living here is higher than a lot of other places. But again, with every city, there are people living on less and there are people living on more. So that doesn't mean that with your income, you can't make something swing, depending on what your income is. But I will say that I feel like it is harder, to live, depending on your lifestyle that you want to live, it might cost more, most likely, in my opinion. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I know that I myself spent a ton of money last year and everything, and I was just like, I can't even believe this. Especially with the rent prices out here, it's wild. The way that the rent has skyrocketed here is it's been crazy. I think it's gone down now, but when I moved here last year, it was it was a lot. So there is that. That's definitely something to think about, because when the cost of living is a lot, you're going to have to bring in some more money, So gotta try to figure out a way. Either you have to bring in more money or you're going to have to cut costs elsewhere. So it's something to really factor in. But again, it's up to the lifestyle that you want to live. So you can swing it depending on who you are. And what type of lifestyle you want to live. And then another thing with that is that even as expensive as things are here, we got to factor in the fact that like it's such a touristy city, and it's just that having fun, that great vibe, of like live life, enjoyment, whatever. And every time there's something to do, this place just is like a culture of spending money. Yeah. Honestly, in my opinion, I definitely, that's how I feel about this city. This is just such a spending money type of city. Like, this is a spending money type of city, where it's like, it's so many great things that you can spend money on. So you want to spend money on it. It's just the incentive to, have fun and go out. Even if you live here, though, at this point, I'm more chill. But when you're first really getting situated, it's just, temptation to spend money all over, especially on food, which was where I really went out bad last year because I'm just, let's have this, let's go here. So yeah, it can get up there money wise. It's very much like that spend money culture, that also a flex culture out here for sure. Because it's a lot of like the flashy cars, flashy jewelry. It doesn't incentivize me to save as much. But again, that's up to me to make the choices to like, hey, flex a little bit, in terms of like, you don't have to go out to eat all the time. You don't got to spend money on that. You don't have to. I didn't really, even with the like, me talking about how it's a culture of like, people looking their best, which I love because that inspires me to put more effort into looking my best, which I'm working on. But last year, I barely spent money on clothes. I didn't really spend much. On clothes and stuff like that. So again, it's up to you. It's about the person. So, but having so many temptations to spend money around me in terms of like, just, it's really mainly the food, the dining options, that can be very tempting for me. Another thing is that depending on where you live in the city, it can be loud at night. So sometimes when you're trying to sleep, you can hear people like yelling, or, you can just hear people. So that's a con sometimes, but I be sleep though. I'm a deep sleeper. It don't really bother me, to be honest. So, and sometimes I keep late nights, like I won't sleep until late because I'm like watching something, or I might even be like watching something, doing something, or I might even be out too. So there's that. But that's definitely something that I want to factor in, because again, it's like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day of the week, people are out. So you can hear them, so depending on where you live. So again, with me talking about like how it's like the spending money culture, there's so many things, nice things that you can spend money on out here. And, I will say that it's also very distracting, because there is always something to do. It's super distracting, where, you really have to be intentional about like, hey, all this, like, no, like, you have to have your priorities straight, because there are a lot of distractions out here, So you have to know what you want, you have to know what you're working for, and you have to like stay focused, because this is definitely a city that is very distracting. It's a lot of things to do. So you have to be able to focus and know your goals, know what you're going after, and work towards it, and let everything else be secondary. It's super important to keep your priorities straight out here. Very, very important. Because again, with that, another con is like you can so easily lose your way. 110% you can lose your way out here. You can definitely get caught up in the mix. You can definitely I feel like it's so easy to get caught up out here. I'm so glad that I moved here when I did, because obviously everybody's still, becoming more coming more into themselves. It's a lifelong journey, to, grow into yourself, I feel like. But I feel like you have to reach, you don't have to, but for me, I'm glad I reached the point I've reached, because I can so easily see how people can come here and completely lose their way and get caught up and distracted. I will say it's just super important, again, to stay focused, and you can't feed into distraction, because it'll be here. And I remember when I would be going out and be on the phone with my friend, and she like, girl, you live here, you don't gotta feel at the time she lived in DC, and she was telling me, like, she was like, she could tell I was still accepting the idea that I was living here, versus like I have to seize the day, or like I can't do this tomorrow. But again, there will always be something out here. There will always be something. With the majority of things, it's gonna happen next week. It's not that deep, it's not that serious, or something better. So yeah, there's that for sure. So it's super important that you keep your head on straight, and that you stay focused, and don't get too caught up and everything like that. Have your fun though. Definitely have your fun, but because I'm gonna have a time and I definitely had a time last year, but still, like, have your focus. I will say also, another con about living in Miami, this is like one of the least ones. I don't really care that much, but it is a con. There will be a stigma associated to it, especially as a woman. I feel like, it's just like, what are you doing in Miami? It's just for partying. It's just, it just has a negative connotation to. And even on TikTok, I find a lot of negative comments about people who even live in Miami. But again, with even like the whole stigma, you might not experience like people making comments when they hear you live in Miami, but I'm just speaking on things that I have heard, and the stuff that I've heard are from people who are only familiar with certain aspects of the city. So there's that. Some people, because even before I lived here, I also thought like, nah, this is just a party place. I could never live here. But it's a lot of ambition. It's a lot of business type of environment. It's also very inspiring living here. Very inspiring, especially depending on the area you live in. Seeing the wealth, seeing like the buildings, the decor and everything. It just makes you want to achieve more. But again, not everybody experiences that. And I get it, because before I lived here, I also thought it was just like strictly just partying and nightlife and whatever. But there's so much more to the city. And I feel like the city gets a bad rap a lot of times. Is it bad rap or bad rep? bad rep. Sorry, I'm Nigerian, so forgive me for some of the sayings or whatever, but I really have no excuse. I've been here for the majority of my life, but I still mess up certain sayings, you know. So if you don't say like you're going to school, or like, you know, your actual location of your job, you know, is here. I moved here because my job allowed me to work remote, you know, so people would be like, you know what, like, what are you doing out there? Da, da, da. But it's just, they think like the only thing you're doing is having fun, you know. But it's like, bruh, you know, like, be for real. You gotta fund it somehow. You gotta work, you know. So there's that. But that was my video giving my pros and my cons about living in Miami. Comment down below if you live in Miami. Comment down below some of your thoughts about the pros and the cons about living here. And if you're interested in moving to Miami, let me know what was your reason for being interested to move to Miami. It has definitely been getting a surge of an influx of people moving in from New York and what did I say, New York and LA, because you see my 3-month update when I had originally like moved here for a sabbatical for a couple months. That was when like the people were first pouring in. And had I known, to be honest, that there were people pouring in before I had already set my mind that I'm gonna move here for a little bit, I probably wouldn't have came. But I'm glad I did. So there's that. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. Bye.